Today's guest couldn't be more perfect for the Escape Your Limits podcast, as his career has led him to become an internationally recognized fitpro, enabling others to improve their own lives through both business and body development. As a master trainer, instructor at Space Cycle in Beijing, I believe also in Shanghai, host of the Fitness Career Mastery podcast and more. Today's guest is living proof that working out is not just a gateway to the obvious body benefits, but it's key to transforming your entire life. Today we welcome international fitness presenter, consultant Barry Ennis to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Welcome, Barry.
Matthew, thank you. Yeah, it's great to be here with you.
So tell us a bit about what's out of the window. What are we looking at here?
We're looking at the beautiful landscape of Shanghai. We're right in the middle, in the heart of the city here in the Jing'an district, and right in the heart of where a lot of fitness is cropping up in this city as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a very high-end shopping center.
Yes, yeah, it's beautiful. There's beautiful architecture. I wish we could take all the cameras on a tour around the studio, because I've never seen anything like this before, but it's very high-end. The price point that you're looking at is going to be similar to like a SoulCycle in the US, and the client experience is at a very high level too.
Right. Yeah. And it's quite, we were talking just before we turned the camera on about how you've kind of got this total contrast. You've got this super high-end, futuristic space that we're in, and then you kind of go down some alleys, and it's quite different. It's very basic, isn't it?
It is, and it's a fascinating contrast, because you do have that, and you do see how fitness is really just beginning here. But at the same time, Shanghai in particular is a very international city, so you have people with international tastes. So opening a studio like this matches the expectations or the desires that they have from traveling around the world and experiencing incredible fitness concepts in different cities. Yeah.
So tell us, how did Barry end up in the middle of Shanghai?
It's a fun story. The way I like to tell it is I've kind of found myself in an interesting niche of international fitness consultants, and it happened completely by accident, I feel. I first went to India to study yoga. I was really drawn to a particular philosophy, and I lived there for some time. And right across the Indian Ocean there in the Gulf is from Mumbai, where I was, is Dubai. And I got an interesting opportunity in Dubai to help create a boot camp style class out there. And then eventually I started working with Flywheel Sports, which is a popular boutique studio from New York. They franchised out to Dubai, and I helped open that studio, manage it, run the program, train the instructors, things like that. And that kind of put me on the map for that international fitness consultant role. And since then, I've consulted with different studios around the world and helped recruit instructors, because I'm sure what we'll get into a little bit more is that you have all of these studios opening all over the world in brand new fitness markets. They don't have the talent base yet in their own city, so they're having to draw experts from fitness markets and countries where the scene is a little more developed, like the US or the UK or Australia. So that's why they're getting in contact with people like me, and that's why I've had the opportunity to work with these studios all over the world. And I have a friend who's also within this little niche, and she found out about this opportunity at Space Cycle. She got involved with them very early on when they first opened in Taipei, and then when they were ready to get started in Beijing, she got in contact with me because they were looking for someone to be out there long term. So I spent about a year in Beijing, and I've been in Shanghai for about a year now.
Right.
Yeah.
So your accent, whereabouts are you from in America?
I'm from Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, we're joking that so many of the people you interview on this podcast are from LA, and then you came all the way to China to interview another one from LA. But yes, I am from Los Angeles. One of the few that was actually born and raised there, because so many people living in LA are from other parts of the country.
Right. And how did you get into fitness over in Los Angeles?
Yeah, it's always been a part of my life, I suppose. I grew up playing baseball very competitively all the way up through college, and I was playing on some professional scouting teams. So from a very young age, I was experienced with just general sports conditioning, lifting, and was cardio conditioning, so that was like always part of my programming. But what was unique about the training I got in baseball is that maybe it was being in LA, but I had some very progressive coaches. They wanted us to practice yoga. So from the age of 13, I was doing yoga, and I noticed how that was benefiting my body. That was the immediate benefit I noticed. And then shortly after that, I just noticed how much it was benefiting my mind as well. I was calmer and more composed on the field, and after that I was just hooked. So while I was in college, I would practice yoga on my own. I'd actually be in the hallway of the dormitory because there wasn't enough room in my room, and people would of course walk by and they'd say, "Oh, you're doing yoga. Can I do some yoga too?" I'd say, "Yeah, sure." And it became a thing. Soon the whole hallway of the dorm was like full of yoga mats and people. Nobody could walk through, so we had to find different space on campus. And when I asked the university if I could use a public space, they said, "Oh, well, you have to get certified first." So it kind of happened by accident, I suppose. But that was my first formal fitness certification, you could say. And shortly after that, found myself doing indoor cycling. And I've taught almost everything now. I've taught yoga, so many different types of yoga, sculpt yoga, like a power yoga, and to something very focused on flexibility, specifically for athletes. I've really explored a lot within just the yoga modality, but I've also taught the boot camp. I mentioned that before. I've taught HIIT training classes, resistance training, strength training. I've taught bar. I teach indoor cycling primarily now as well. So I feel pretty comfortable and confident getting in front of any group of people and putting them through a workout.
Yeah. And what gave you the motivation to leave, I guess, the heart of fitness, Los Angeles, and go out to somewhere like India or Asia? What was the thought process in that?
I don't think anyone's necessarily asked me that question in that way before, so that's a good one. I think what brought me to India was for the yoga, and yoga originated from India. So there's obviously much more of a history and knowledge base there, much more so than what you can find in the US. So that's initially what drew me there. But what has kept me out in countries like Dubai and now China is the fact that these markets are just developing right now. And I'll tell you, it's so fulfilling as an instructor to watch people come into a class and they may have never exercised before in their life, and they'll come into a cycling class and they might be falling off the bike and they have this really panicked look on their face and they don't understand what this water is that's coming out of their face. Maybe not to that extent, but like that green, and then watching them gain strength and gain confidence in themselves and keep coming back and become addicted to it. That's just not something you get in LA. Certainly not LA. Everyone has done something before. So when they come into your class, they already have preconceived notions. They already have a set of expectations. It's almost like they come in with the attitude of, "Oh, what are you going to give me? You'd better impress me." And it's totally different in these cultures. They come in with an attitude of respect, especially in China. You are their teacher, and they're there to learn something from you, and they're so grateful for what you provide to them. So being able to be part of changing the landscape of fitness and pioneering how it's going to grow in these countries is something that's incredibly fulfilling for me.
Yeah. How easy was it or difficult was it to go from, I guess, learning about yoga in India to actually turning it into a business where you can get a job and stay here? What was that like?
Specifically for yoga?
Or just generally. I guess a lot of people have, particularly younger trainers, I guess this would be a dream to
For
leave.
sure, yeah, and it's actually something that I'm trying to facilitate through something that I'm building right now, giving more young trainers the ability to come take opportunities like this. What is amazing is that, when you are looking at these new growing markets, like I mentioned, they're looking for experts, they're looking for people that are experienced and can come lead a very strong class experience and maybe even train new instructors within the country or the region. So even if you're a green instructor or very new, it's a fantastic growing and learning opportunity for you to come here, because you're probably going to just naturally get experience that would be very challenging to get in a city like Los Angeles. The market, the industry is so saturated there. You have to really set yourself apart in order to get a good job. It's kind of like that problem they always talk about, like for people coming out of college, like, oh, to get a job I need experience, but I need a job to get experience, right? So we have a few trainers here at Space Cycle. They've specifically come here almost to rebrand themselves, to give themselves level of experience and a title that they wouldn't be able to necessarily immediately jump into if they're working in a busy city like New York or Los Angeles. So they're getting the opportunity to come here and gain a lot of really incredible teaching and sometimes management experience that they can then bring into, maybe they go back to their home city or home country. Maybe they find themselves in a position like me where all of a sudden they're starting to bounce around the world a little bit more, and that just continues to snowball.
Yeah. Where do you start then? Do you go online and Google yoga instructor Shanghai, or how do you start that process off?
It's so funny you ask me that, because that's exactly the problem that I'm trying to solve. I'm going to be launching a platform very soon that kind of solves that problem, because I go back to the US and I talk to instructors and they look at my photos. There was one day we were literally doing a cycling class on top of a helipad, 90 floors up over the Bund and over the river that runs through Shanghai. And they look at something like that, they're like, wow, I want to do something like that. How do I get that kind of opportunity? I'm like, well, you have to kind of put yourself out there and look for it. And there's no real source or one place where people can go to look for opportunities like that, which is the problem I'm trying to solve. And then on the other side, you have these studios that are popping up. They're getting a ton of capital and investment money because fitness is booming in Asia and a lot of other countries like South America, the Middle East as well, in Europe. And they're scaling so fast, they need more experts, they need more quality instructors coming in. And the question I get all the time from them is, can you find us more instructors? And I'm kind of limited to the reach of my personal network. There's no one place that I can go to find those people. So you got to get, hopefully what I'm going to launch will solve that problem, but for the time being you have to get a little creative with how you do it. If you get onto Instagram or Facebook or Google and just, I have some colleagues that have gotten jobs in other countries just by Googling cycling Japan or something like that and seeing what top studios come up, and then you just have to take the initiative to reach out to them.
Yeah, because you've got the added challenge, and I've been out here quite a lot. I haven't been for a few years, but you've got the added challenge of of the platforms that you use. One is you've got the language. So even getting here today, I open up my Uber, which didn't work, and then there's a local version of Uber, and
Yes.
and then you can't put your normal credit card in, so you can't kind of use it. So things that you take for granted in the rest of the world are not as easy to work out here either, are they?
Well, especially in China, and I had similar issues in Dubai. The nature of the government here, they've set up more of what I would call an intranet rather than an internet. So they like to have, like you said, their own versions of the apps that we're used to using. And I'm not sure the reason why. You could guess at a lot, but the ones that you are used to using are actually blocked, and it could be to promote their economy or like just be more aware of what their citizens are doing. But Instagram's blocked, Facebook is blocked, Google is blocked, Uber is blocked. Like you can't normally access all of these platforms, so it has been an incredible adjustment period too. So when I'm looking to promote myself within the community here, I have to use WeChat is the popular app that kind of rolls Instagram and Facebook and Twitter all into one.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool. I've used it, and I am using it now again since I've been here, because it seems to be the way that you pay for everything, and your whole life is in it. So it's a pretty, from my experience, it's actually a lot better than what's out there.
Yeah, and in some ways it's extremely convenient because everything is right there, but then on the other hand, it can also be extremely overwhelming, because imagine if you were getting all of your Facebook notifications, all of your Instagram notifications, all of your emails, like all in one place. It's just constantly blowing up. But I don't have to carry a wallet around. I just carry my phone, because I just pay for everything through WeChat. It's kind of like Apple Pay on steroids. Like Apple Pay you can use at more places now, but it's not every single place you go. And here WeChat is used everywhere and for everything.
Yeah, we're in a small restaurant in Nangtong, which is about 2 hours outside of the city, which for people who don't know is kind of in the sticks. It's still a big city. There's several million people live there, but it is really outside of anywhere. And it was a tiny little restaurant, and the guys paid the bill through WeChat. It's all electronic. No cash needed.
They just come over and just scan your phone and then walk away, and it's done. You don't have to give them your card, wait for them to go away, come back and sign the thing. It's just instantaneous. It spoils me when I go back to LA. I'm like, oh, I have to swipe the thing, I have to put in my PIN code, I have to wait and I have to sign it. And it's like a whole process. Yeah.
What are some of the things that you assumed were going to be a certain way but were different when you got into business out here?
That's another good question. Specifically coming to China, I made sure I came with no expectations. I find that's the best way, because then you're not necessarily surprised and you're not disappointed either. I would say what has been surprising, at least working here at Space Cycle, is just the level of service that's provided. It's at a much higher level, and they approach it in such a different way. I see many of our staff here, and they'll walk their client into the room, they'll lay out their yoga mat for them and put their block down, their water, and then they'll lead them into the locker room. They're there to be there for their every need in that way. And I love seeing something like that, because I personally love relating the fitness industry to the hospitality industry. If you think about the experience you have going into like a 5-star hotel, they know your name, they take your bags for you, everything's very streamlined and easy for you. And I don't see why it can't be a similar experience when you come into a fitness studio, especially because a lot of the people coming in are terrified, right? They might be coming in for the very first time, they're trying something new, they're feeling intimidated. So to have such a welcoming atmosphere when they come in is really important, and I think this is something that sets Space Cycle apart, and what's certainly something that's different about the industry here that I've noticed.
Yeah, it kind of spoils you a little bit, because when you go back, certainly I travel a lot, but you kind of get comfortable with the experience you get here, as you say, whether it's a hotel. We went to a studio yesterday and there was 3 or 4 people around us, everything, water, towels, whatever you wanted.
Right.
You're constantly being looked after, and when you go back, in a lot of, not everywhere, but in a lot of cases, you don't get that, and you kind of feel as though you're missing out a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I think another thing that I would say I never could have expected is something I touched on before, but just the openness and the attitude that the clients come in with. How they treat you as an expert and someone to learn something from. Like, everyone wants to come up and take a photo with me after class and share this experience with their friends, and they want my music, they want my playlist, they want to follow me. Usually in LA, I'm like begging people to could you follow me on Instagram, please? But they want to here because they view you as an authority and as an expert, and they have that level of respect for you, and that's something that definitely spoils me too. Like, going back to LA, trying to really get people's attention and really be able to contact and touch them at a deep level is a much more difficult task, because they just kind of have these walls up, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the I guess common mistakes that operators from outside of Asia that come here make that you've seen? Because I guess there's a lot of people that, a lot of brands they develop, and then one of the key places they want to go in is Asia. It's a huge market,
right,
and they want to open chains here. What are some of the things that you think that they generally either, I guess, probably get wrong or take for granted or don't anticipate?
I think the number one thing is that they have the wrong expectations for what the process is going to be like to find quality instructors or to get people into the studio initially, because what they hear is Asia is ripe for fitness right now. It's booming, it's growing. So what they hear is, oh, I'm going to go there. It's kind of like the gold rush to California. I'm just going to be able to strike gold immediately. But what they don't realize in coming here is that because fitness is so new, they don't have the years of experience that an industry might have in the US. So that means the level of quality of instructor that you find out here is actually still at a lower level, and there are just not many of them. So I've experienced that here in China, I've experienced it in Dubai. We'll hold auditions and there just aren't many people, and they aren't at a very high level yet. So that's the number one thing to be aware of, and it takes a lot of time to cultivate that group of people, and it might take a big investment to bring in those experts from outside to at least get the ball rolling for you. And then the other thing is, on the other side, just getting clients into the studio. Because it's so new, if you open a new concept, they might not have any idea of what it is that you're doing, so you have to first educate them and then allow them to grow comfortable and experienced with it. So it's not an instantaneous process, and you have to be ready for the long haul and be ready to really put in some work to provide the same experience that you would more easily be able to provide in a more Western country.
Yeah, and I guess from what we've seen, even in the US and Europe, the boutique is a new thing at the moment, and even in these developed markets where there are a lot of instructors, that's one of the challenges that they have, because I guess you're not just looking for someone who understands physical exercise, you're looking for an entertainer as well as someone who can exercise. Is that how you see things?
Well, what I immediately think of is, I probably could have added this into my answer to your last question, is coming here, it's almost like going back in time a little bit, because what has been here first are the big box gyms. So you have people that the deepest level of experience they have is with weightlifting or with bodylifting, and that's something that we saw trending and really popular years ago in the U.S. So it's almost like they're catching up here. Yeah, they have a base level of experience, but where we are in, say, the U.S., if you go to a Soul Cycle, it's like a party in there. It's an experience, and that's something that you're not going to see here necessarily either. So if the instructors that you are able to find that can put you through a good workout, they haven't learned to develop that next level yet. And that's something we work with a lot with our instructors here at Space Cycle. I did some workshops with our instructors this week on how to develop an instructor persona, how to be a different version of themselves, or an alter ego as more of an entertainer and performer up there. How to set an intention to your class so it's more of a moving experience rather than just a workout. Things like that. How to create a concert experience in your class is something that we teach our instructors here as well.
And there's some podcast episodes, I think, where you talk about some of those things.
And in my podcast, those are things that I touch on, because what I believe is if you have two identical workouts that are flawlessly taught with perfect form and perfect cueing, the one that you're going to choose to go to at that point is the one where you're having a lot of fun, the one where you're really enjoying the music. So we want our instructors to be incredibly good trainers, but we also recognize that what's going to set them apart, especially as fitness begins to develop and grow, is being able to pull people into an immersive experience that has the potential to change them at a very deep level, not just their bodies. Something I always say is that people come, and you've probably experienced this yourself, people come to fitness for one reason, but they stay for a completely different one. And my personal philosophy is to try to get my clients, to try to get the participants in my class into a state of vulnerability. And we're easily able to reach that in a fitness class because they're pushing past the level, the limits of their comfort zone, and that's when insecurities come up and fears and doubts. And that's an incredible opportunity to teach and to give them the opportunity to have a personal breakthrough, to show themselves, oh my God, I am stronger than I thought, I am capable of doing this, even when I'm feeling all of these negative, painful thoughts in my head of self-doubt. I'm able to contact those in a different way that allows me to push through that experience. And to me, that's something that people can bring out into their everyday life, and suddenly they're contacting conflicts in their relationships differently, conflicts at work, or just the grind you have to push against to achieve your dreams. There's going to be so many obstacles along the way, and if you can teach yourself how to push through those sticking points one at a time, even if it's just from being on a bike in a fitness class, that all they have to do is show themselves once that they can do it, and then they know in every other area of their life that they can.
Yeah, so some of the people that we spoke to have actually gone out and they've looked for people that are in the theatre world and entertainers. What would you hire if you had a choice of two people? Would you go for someone that's technically perfect in teaching a pose or being able to deliver a class on a bike, or someone that's kind of got that edge in terms of being a bit more inspirational?
That's a great question, and I just got asked that question yesterday, and it's not an easy question to answer. I think my answer would be, it depends, because I do believe that anyone can learn anything, but what is more difficult to teach is that personality that you have up there and being able to draw someone into an experience and being a performer. That's more typically something that people are born with, or they're not. It can be taught, but there are people that have a natural talent for that. So honestly, my answer is I would be more drawn to taking someone like that, because it's easy to teach them the skills to be a quality trainer, and then they have that performance aspect there as well. The trouble I run into with hiring someone who's a very experienced and qualified trainer is twofold. Number one, if they aren't necessarily a very good performer or entertainer and can draw people into an experience, that might be very difficult to teach them. And then number two, a lot of the time when we're doing a lot of revolutionary things here at Space Cycle, what we would want our trainers to do could be very different from what an experienced trainer is used to doing, and it can be very difficult to break those habits that they have. So a lot of the time the answer is that it's easier to take someone with a dance background or a theater background and bring them into fitness, and then allow them to get the certifications, get the proper education and experience to teach a very well thought out, proper and safe workout. And they have that performance aspect there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the image of a trainer? And I'll come on to the brand part next, but if you're here to inspire and lead people, how important is it to be fit and healthy yourself, or can you just, is it a job and okay, I'm a little bit sort of overweight and out of condition, but you know, I'm a decent instructor. What's your thought on that?
That's, you know, I think the general assumption that people have when they come to a class, this is what I hear a lot, is that when they look at the instructor, they assume they look that way because of the class that they're teaching, right? So if I'm going into a cycling class, I'm looking at the instructor and saying, oh, they look that way from doing this workout. If I do this workout, I'm going to look that way too. So, and I know that's true for any sort of workout. So, like if I'm going in to like a boot camp class and I'm looking to put on some serious mass, and I have someone who's just a stick up there at the front of the room, I might be less inclined to believe what they're asking me to do.
Right.
So I think it serves you well to look the part in that way, because it just makes it so much easier to contact your clients. It's by no means necessary.
Right.
I think you can be an incredible trainer no matter how you look. So that's how I personally feel about it, but I understand how it can serve people well to really look the part, because people look up to you, and they'll look up to you more if you if you look the part. So that's also why I see like a lot of Soul Cycle instructors, they'll like have crazy hairstyles and like dress in a very specific way, because people just walk in, they're like, wow, look at this person, I want to be like them. And maybe they push themselves a little bit harder in their class. Yeah.
So one of the things I've seen since we started our company, we started this business 20 years ago. So it was very much in the kind of big box clubs. There was an aerobics studio, there was a free weights area, there was a cardio room. And so the aerobics instructors did step and that kind of thing. And pay wasn't great. And a lot of them I knew were great entertainers and went on to do some amazing things. But it wasn't a job that you did for money. It was a job you did because you enjoyed it.
Right.
Now with the digital world and social media, it seems as though trainers have got the ability to create their own brand and persona. What's your thoughts on, or how important do you think it is for a trainer to build their own brand and persona outside of the class that they teach to develop their career?
I think it really depends on what your personal goals are as a trainer or an instructor. Some people are perfectly content just teaching at their studio and having a real deep impact on the small community that they're working in. I know a lot of people that that word impact is the most important word for them. So it doesn't matter if they're teaching just 12 people a day, if they're having a deep impact on those 12 people's lives, that's important to them. But then some people have the desire and the dream to have hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram and be leading online workouts and be like a fitness celebrity. That word has changed, right? A celebrity trainer used to mean that you train celebrities, and now it means that you are a celebrity as a trainer. Obviously, if that is your goal and you're trying to reach as many people as possible and share your voice and your experience and your knowledge and particular point of view with the world, then social media and having a strong presence and persona online is going to be extremely important for you. And I have been to workshops where they teach how to use social media as a trainer in order to put forth that attractive persona that's going to draw more people to you, to allow you to have more online clients or be able to have a bigger reach.
Yeah,
It's so interesting. But I think the problem the fitness industry is facing now is you have a lot of people that are just looking for that celebrity trainer factor, and maybe they don't necessarily have the strongest knowledge base in how to lead people through a really safe and proper, effective workout. And my personal philosophy is that both absolutely have to be there.
Right.
So I know there are a lot of trainers in the industry now that are getting a little frustrated by seeing these people have hundreds of thousands of followers and they've done one kettlebell class and all of a sudden they're doing kettlebells workouts on on Instagram and teaching hundreds of thousands of people how to do something that may actually not be very correct or safe.
Yeah.
So
for the trainer in, I'll call it the new world then, what do you think are some of the things, if a trainer wants to, that wants to make a career financially so that they're able to do what they want out of life and earn the money that they feel they should do, what are some of the things that a new trainer needs to have in their toolkit to make things work in today's day and age?
Yeah, these are all things that I try to address on my podcast, the Fitness Career Mastery, which I'm so glad you'll be a guest on next, because I think you'll be able to give a lot of insight into answering that question yourself from interviewing so many different fitness professionals around the world. But to me, the way the new world of fitness is going is that it's really going to loop back to the level of experience and knowledge that you have. So for new trainers out there, I would really encourage you to give yourself a very strong education, because that's going to serve you in so many different ways on this journey. And if you have that, you're going to find it so much easier to find yourself in a lot of different types of positions. And then the second most important thing is to network. The more people that you know within the fitness industry, automatically the more opportunities you're going to get, the more people you're going to meet. And I think in this age of social media, it's becoming so much easier to do that, but I see a lot of trainers that aren't taking that step to grow their network and reach out and meet people and collaborate with them. It can be dangerous you can find yourself in just your own little pocket. And something that I feel like I'm constantly combating with my podcast in the fitness industry is making sure that we're not hoarding information. And I don't know if you've experienced that, but I see it a lot. People don't want to share how they've become successful because that's their secret, right? But I believe that the more we serve others, even within our own industry, the more it's ultimately going to serve us. So collaborate with others, give away what you know, continue to give yourself a strong base of knowledge, and you're just going to naturally continue to excel.
Yeah, and is there, particularly if we relate to Asia, as a trainer, would WeChat be the platform that they need to understand how to navigate through?
I think WeChat is one. There's one called Weibo that's kind of the Chinese Instagram, and
Right.
I've seen trainers put up workouts on Weibo, or there's one called Youku, which is kind of like their YouTube. So there's a few platforms out there, but since everyone is connected through WeChat and these platforms, like they're on it all the time, you have the potential to reach many, many more people. So that's something that I'm constantly working on. Helps if I speak Chinese, and I'm taking lessons in that right now. But WeChat is the way to go. I have several groups on WeChat, which is, you can think of as like a big group chat, and I have over 1,000 people in that group, just clients that have wanted to keep in touch with me from taking my classes. So it makes it pretty easy.
And from a marketing perspective, you've set up your podcast, which is interesting. I'll let you talk about that in a moment. But what was the reason to set that up? Was it, from a business perspective, was it a good business idea? Was it just that you had all this knowledge and you wanted to share it? Why did you decide to do that? And what place do podcasts have in today's day and age?
Podcasts are becoming more and more popular. You can find podcasts on almost any topic out there. If you're not familiar with podcasts, they're available on your Apple device or on your Android. You can easily find them. But you should definitely check them out. There's something for everybody out there. But for me personally, it is turning into more of a business opportunity, but that wasn't the intention I went into it with. It was actually one of the last cycle trainings that I did. I was just rambling on, talking about something. I don't even remember what it was, but like the trainees stopped me, like, wait, what did you say? And I was like, I said blah, 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 blah. And like everyone's head went down. They started scribbling something down. I had a moment where I was like, whoa. Clearly that's something that I take for granted because I've just been doing it forever, but this is something valuable and something brand new that they've never heard before. So then that got me thinking, like, there must be many things that I've known through over a decade of experience and traveling around the world and being in these different markets. I'd like to give myself the platform to share those with people. And since, like I mentioned, I personally feel like there is sometimes an attitude of hoarding information in the fitness industry, I wanted to set an example of like, no, we should share everything that we know, because ultimately we're all here because we want to make the lives of other people better. And that, if that's really what we care about the most, then we should be happy to share all, maybe not proprietary information if you're a gym or studio owner, but share information that allows others to excel as well, because that ultimately allows us to have more of an impact on more people. I feel that I, as an individual instructor, have the potential to reach probably a few thousand, if I'm lucky, a few million people. But if I'm able to educate other instructors on how to be a better quality trainer, how to provide more of an experience that changes people's lives, all of a sudden my ability to reach the lives of clients just exponentially grows.
Yeah.
So that's my attitude behind the podcast.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And where can people find that? What's the name of the podcast?
Oh, thank you. It's called Fitness Career Mastery. So whether you're a personal trainer or a group fitness instructor, whether you're a gym owner or a boutique studio owner, I'm interviewing experts from all around the world, people I interact with through my travels and my network that I'm constantly trying to grow, and I'm getting to share their secrets to success. So I found an interesting niche there because a lot of fitness podcasts out there are for the participants or the clients. Mine is specifically for fitness professionals and helping them, as the name implies, excel and continue to achieve mastery in their career. And I've been steadily growing with it, reaching more people, which is really cool to see. And I'm sure, as you know, it's just really interesting to have a deep conversation and connection with someone brand new every week.
Yeah, that's right. And as you said, with the sharing of information, you know, we travel, we meet lots of people, and
Sure.
And yes, there's some proprietary information that people can't share, but there's a lot of it that's just useful knowledge for a lot of people. It grows the market. You know, the market, as we know, there's still a very small percentage of people that are working out, and there's a huge amount of opportunity there for everybody that wants to get into it.
Right.
And I think for me, it's just been great to share different ideas and hear different ideas of how people have made it. Because it's you know, just one little idea you find can make a big difference to your business. And it's like you said, you know, if you want to come out to Asia and find a job, where do you go? Doesn't exist. And if you're thinking about getting into the fitness industry, or if you're a trainer and you want to develop, or if you're a business owner and you want to move to new markets, where do you go to find that information? It doesn't really exist, does it?
Right. So exactly. So that's something that I'm trying to provide. Here's a library of information that's going to help you get to where you need to go.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts and views and predictions on where the market in Asia is going to go over the next 5 to 10 years? You're obviously now, I was quite surprised of how developed the boutique sector is here for such an emerging market. What do you think is next? And
I think from what I'm seeing, they're taking so much influence from the West. So whatever trend is happening in the US or the UK or Australia, that's what's going to be happening next here. Like something I literally heard about the other day was there's another studio out here. They had to shut down one of their locations, and the owners went back to New York. They went to Rumble, and you know, that concept and idea is really popular and booming there. So they said, well, let's do that here. So they basically opened their own version of Rumble here, which is like a boxing concept. So I think they're going to continue to follow those trends that are popular in the US until fitness really becomes a deeper part of the culture here, and the locals start to, through their own experience and knowledge, come up with their own concepts and ideas. But I think that's going to be still a number of years out. I think we at Space Cycle here are putting ourselves in a position where we're facilitating that kind of growth, because we're very focused on the education of instructors, both internally and also for the community as well. So we're bringing in masters from all over the world and having them teach workshops for our instructors and also for the public. So hopefully just growing the general knowledge base when it comes to fitness within the country, really, so that we can start to pass the baton on to them and they can take it into a brand new direction.
Yeah. Do you think that the boutique's just getting started and there's still a long way for that to go in Asia in general?
I do. Yeah, I think people love the boutique concept here, so I think that's something that's certainly going to be continue to be popular.
Yeah. And how do you think that compares to the traditional gyms that are still around? Do you think people go to both, or do you think they'll move towards this type of concept more?
Again, I feel like they're following the stereotypes and conditioning that they see to the West. They're always looking to the West. So it's funny, you'll see a lot of the men in China, they want to go to a big box gym and they want to get really big and they want to have that bodybuilder look. And then all of the women, they want to come to a bar class or a dance class and have a very slim It's all they want to look like, you'd be surprised how many businesses are named Barbie something here, because I think they want to go for that look. So like I said, the concept of ideal body image has evolved past that in the US. I feel like a lot of the men are not necessarily looking to be extremely big, they just want to be extremely strong. And then the women are also wanting to be extremely strong, which is amazing. That's what's as it should be.
More athletic.
Athletic is a excellent word as well. So I feel like, again, Asia's like a few years behind, because that's what we saw years ago in the US, but they are constantly looking west, so that's going to continue to evolve and change. So to circle it back, yes, the big box gyms are still pretty popular out here because that's where a lot of the men are going to exercise. But I think as more boutique concepts come here and as the fitness market begins to develop here, we're going to see that begin to change to match more of what's happening in the West.
Yeah. So what's Barry's view for the next 5 years then?
Me personally?
Yeah, what are some of your goals and things you want to achieve whilst you're out here?
I'm just constantly exposed to new opportunities out here, so in terms of what that specifically looks like for me being in China, it's very open. For my personal businesses, I continue to want to educate instructors. I want to see my podcast grow and have that become more of an education system for trainers around the world to tap into. And then I'm working on this other business that will allow trainers and studios worldwide to find each other more easily, because I think it's so important for a fit lifestyle to grow around the world, and especially for Americans. I personally feel we're so secluded over there, actually, in our continent. We don't get to experience a lot of cultures and other things. So giving fitness trainers the opportunity to travel and gain new experiences and reach a higher level of fulfillment for themselves personally through traveling and training, that's something that I'd like to facilitate and see happen.
Yeah.
I think it's only going to serve those people that take those opportunities. It's only going to serve the studios that they work for. It's only going to serve the culture and the country that they're working in.
Yeah.
So that's my big vision. Yeah, and I feel like the two of those things certainly intersect.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
with each other.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's certainly with this new type of fitness experience now that we're seeing, it's very trainer centric. You couldn't do what you're doing here without great trainers. You know, it looks amazing, but it just wouldn't work. And so many of these concepts are the same. And I think that's the challenge, where you can open the traditional gyms, you can do 200 of them very easily. And you go in with your key and people work out DIY fitness. But this, you can't do that. And I guess, you know, certainly in this part of the world, being able to connect good trainers with good operators, I think there's a huge opportunity for that. And the other thing that you said, which certainly, you know, resonated with me since being here, is I used to come out every year, maybe, you know, several times. I've not been for a few years now, and it's amazing how fast things change here. Yeah. And I think for anybody, you know, whether they want to open a studio or a trainer, I think it's a great place to come to just to see, as you said, you know, we get very insular, whether we're living in England or America, we're kind of on our islands and we think that's what's going on and that's the latest and greatest. But I've been here and I did a post just this morning and I was seriously impressed with the quality that I've seen. I haven't been to many places in the world that are as innovative and well put together and creative. And yes, okay, maybe the concepts originated somewhere. And I heard you talk about this on a previous podcast as well, but it's not, they've not copied an idea. Yes, they've taken some of the basics, but they've kind of taken a concept and they've taken it to another level. They've improved the seed of an idea, and that's what we're seeing. It's not copying it, ripping it off and doing a poor version. It's saying, well, I like that, but I think we could probably take that concept and do a little bit better. And I've certainly seen that with what you guys have done here as well. You know, you've got cycle bar, yoga,
and dance.
And it's a beautiful space. Hopefully on the video, if you watch a video, you'll get to see a little bit of it.
I hope so. It's cool. Come visit us in Shanghai sometime if you're watching, listening.
So final question then we normally ask is escape your limits is about escaping what your friends and people have told you is impossible, or even something that you've always believed yourself is impossible, and then gone ahead and making it possible.
Absolutely.
What would be one of your most memorable examples of escaping your own limits?
I think the best answer to that question is just deciding that I'm going to do something no matter how crazy that idea sounds. Like a funny story that I like to tell is when I was living in the US and I wanted to go do this yoga training course in India. I was starting to wrap up my life there, and I was telling people, okay, I'm moving to India in 2 months, and they're like, wow, that's amazing, I'm so happy for you, that's incredible. And I'd be like, thank you, and then 2 weeks away from when I would leave, I'd be calling up people and be like, okay, so I'm leaving, I want to see you one last time. And they're like, wait, you're going? So I feel like we just fall into these patterns of how our lives are supposed to progress, or what's possible for ourselves. But just decide what you want to do and just jump in the deep end. It's so scary and so hard to do. I was telling a story before the podcast started that moving to India was my first time ever leaving the US. I had a fresh passport and fresh visa in there, and that was certainly jumping in the deep end for me. And moving to a culture like what you see in Dubai is completely different from India, and I felt like I was jumping in the deep end there. And yeah, it's hard to figure out how to swim or tread water and rise above, but what you learn through those experiences, it's just so invaluable. And I feel like that's how you escape your limits, is just continue to put yourself in a situation where those limits are tested. That's the only way to show yourself that you can escape them.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Barry, I wish you success in continuing to escape your limits. Thank you very much for your time. Great story.
You.
And
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.